One of the basic things that I have learned, and it took me a while to figure it out, was that if you don't have your basic needs met, that it's very hard to grow beyond and start talking about future and hope and achievement. Now, I've heard that in books, and I can quote, a guy named Maslow who talks about that. But when you live through it, it's very different. Um, I was for a long time not in a position to buy a home, but renting places was really difficult because my neighbors didn't understand when my kid would have meltdowns and disturb their evenings or sleep, or would run out of the house because he was having a difficult time, or the landlord didn't like it if in his rage he would knock a hole in the wall. So we were always, on several times we moved. We had to move. We didn't have money all the time to pay for all the things I knew that he really, really needed. And the system's not equipped to pay for the things that are really, really needed.
At first, when Peter was diagnosed, he was very, very young, so we did not have services. What we relied upon was taking him to the emergency room at the local children's hospital. And Peter maxed out on his lifetime mental health insurance coverage when he was 8. So the onus was on us to pay those extraordinary bills that he was gathering by being in the hospital so much. And I don't think the hospital was really the place to be. And I think Pete would agree with that.
Yeah.
If you have services in place that are outside the hospital, number one, it's cheaper. And number two, it's also more helpful because in the hospital, they don't feel like normal, typical kids. It's harder for them. It's better to be at home. It's better to be with your family and in your community and getting services rather than being in the hospital.
Big time.
So, I mean, that nearly drove us down the drain to bankruptcy and beyond just because we had to pay those bills. And those bills, by the way, are still there. We're still paying that hospital off.
For the family, every day becomes a struggle living with a child with a mental health issue. And it's not just, we try to do the best for our kids, but it means not just the school environment, it's also, we're taking them to doctors. You have to take them out of school to doctors. They miss school. You go from one doctor to the next. Each doctor may not have the right answer. Each one will say, refer you on to somebody else. Then you're taking time off work. You have to use all of your sick leave to take your child to whatever specialist or doctor is the next recommendation person to be taking your child to. The cost for having a child with a mental health is not just the emotional part, but it's financial because you're driving all over. It's, thank goodness we have good medical. If we did not have good medical and we have no co-pays, we would have been in serious financial shape.
We had a couple of instances with our family where we were very lucky and providers found sources of money to just give us to help us pay our bills and to help us feed ourselves, which was an enormous gift. But it takes a dedicated worker to keep up to date as far as those sources of grant money or whatever and their availability, and then putting that together with families who need it. We didn't look like a family who needed it, but we indeed did need it. There was another instance where we were able to get several providers together to help Peter get a computer, which was nearly unheard of. Those are great things because a computer in his life makes all the difference.
Big time. That computer is just, it has helped me more than any of the services I've ever received.
We've got to support the strengths, the talents, the skills of everyone. And that if we treat everyone as a value to our organization, to our system, to our community, then we can see all that they have to offer, and certainly we can support them in sharing their talents, sharing their skills with the world.
It is important to feel valued and validated. My son said that he is the person who knows himself the best and that people should value that. I agree, but also as a parent, we are the people who know the best about our families, and that needs to be validated. It's been a great thing when that's happened in our lives, but it's also been harmful, very harmful when it did not. I remember when Pete was first being diagnosed, a pediatrician sending us to a parenting class and thinking, all the work we've put into trying to parent this little tiny kid, and he was really young at the time, doesn't mean anything to him. He thinks we've done it all wrong. Thank goodness when we got to the parenting class, the person who was facilitating it said, you've done everything the best way that it could be done, and you've gone above and beyond that. That was the validation we needed. And I changed pediatricians because I thought, you know what? I don't need that anymore. So I'm going to go to someone else who really understands the family and believes us.
I have watched over the past 10 years families go from getting one set of services that everyone gets, same thing, cookie cutter services. And now service providers are starting to think out of the box. They're starting to listen to parents more, and they're starting to do things that work for this family, and then with the next family, they listen and they get a plan that works for that family. And that's the thing that I'm most excited about, because families are all different. They could have the same diagnosis, but their family structure is different. So what works for one may not work for another.
Sanctuary is probably the most important coping mechanism that I have. Without sanctuary, I would not be able to function, because imagine not having that place you can go to just relax and not have to worry about your problems, even just temporarily. Some things that give me sanctuary in my life are, I have my room that is my sacred place where I'm allowed to just be me and be I can let my guard down in my room. I don't have to worry about being judged there. And also my video games are my sanctuary as well, because I can escape into a different world, and I'm in control in that world, unlike this world, the real world.
Your mood changes and your body language changes, and so people can really tell if you're in your sanctuary.
Sanctuary in my life has been savior in my life for both myself and my husband. I think that because we made that a priority, we made it. Sanctuary can be anything from taking a bubble bath. It doesn't sound like much, and it maybe is only 10 or 20 minutes, but just feeling whatever it is that makes you feel the peace and relief and anxiety kind of wash away. Water will wash that away for sure, but so with some people like myself, wood knitting or being around animals. We've had critters in our home because it suits all of us, and it's sanctuary for all of us to be around those critters. When people thought we were spending too much money on food for these critters, we thought, oh no, 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 money well spent, this is therapy.
With our types of issues, there's a lot of stigma. And stigma isn't fair. Stigma isn't right. Mentally ill people can't control it. It's a medical condition. It's not anything else like they wouldn't yell at you for not being able to walk if you had cerebral palsy. So why are they yelling at me for not having the attention span to do 30 boring math problems? So they end up just being mean, and I get made fun of, and people don't treat me well. And that's just not right.
Like Michael said with schizophrenia, he's already labeled a mass murderer, someone that's going to hurt you, which is very untrue because it's just a very small percentage of people that are untreated have that kind of problem. So if you don't have justice and fairness, you can't learn, you can't do anything to increase your skills and develop your potential so you can lead any kind of a productive life.
For my son, who was told to his face when he wanted to go volunteer or find a part-time job working with horses, that the person in charge says, well, we couldn't possibly trust a kid like you, because we disclosed that he had some disability issues, but he loved horses and he was good with them. We couldn't possibly have you here. These horses are expensive. He came back kind of forlorn. I said, let's go talk to the HR director. And once he started telling his story, he looked at her because he knew what ADA was. And he said, don't you know it's illegal to discriminate against people with disabilities? And I'm thinking, wow, we need to help our kids understand that there are some protections that will help them, and that the world does see that it's serious to help provide them with some of the aids that will help them get through life.
When I think about my journey of resiliency, one of the phases that I've kind of been stuck in lately has been this phase of advocacy. I get a lot of joy in helping other families, and I get a lot of satisfaction in seeing other families become empowered. And I know how important it has been for me and my family for us to feel empowered in dealing with Alex's mental health issues. And I want to give that gift to other families. And a lot of families tell me I'm so strong, or am so passionate about what I'm doing. And what we really see is that we're just passionate about our children. And as mothers, we're passionate about our children. And I want to support and empower other parents to get that passion back and to not be afraid to use it.
I've had a lot of people in my life who've really been rooting for me, and I've helped them through some hard times too. As long as you've got people who care about you and people you care about, you're going to be good.
Michael, when he got in the marching band, they were trying to figure out what instrument he should play, and he loved percussion. And as it wound up, because he was only going to school every other day, they let him play the great big cymbal that weighs, 8-10 pounds. And you could hear him play during the Star-Spangled Banner. In concert band, he always sat back with the percussion, and he always had something to play. And even if he wasn't playing, I can remember there was one of the contest that he wasn't playing in because he had missed so much school. He went to the contest as a member, and he helped them set up, and he was supportive. So the band, both the marching band and the other band, concert band, accepted him. And he was, totally accepted by the kids and the parents.
Just knowing that I have people that I can talk to, I can say whatever it is that I need to say, and they're not going to judge me. They're not going to want to avoid me the next time they see me. But I have people in my life who are very, very understanding and supportive. and they nurture me when I need it. And I, in turn, do the same for them.
Definitely the people who I've met through doing the resiliency program have made a huge impact on my life. And definitely my family, because they are my support system. They're all I have. I mean, my friends help a lot too, but my family's with me all the time.
I have a very close support group, of network of friends who have been with us the entire journey, from the time Rachel was born until now. And having those people in my life are probably the best part that support my resilience.
Our family has been very fortunate to have a number of mental health support people who have brought so much to our lives, and especially have been a blessing to Bill. And all of those people liked him, and they let him know that he was likable and lovable. Even when he had challenging moments, they liked him, and they could point out those things that were his gifts in the midst of a meltdown. And that was so amazing, because he could come back and regroup and know that they would still see him in a positive light. It's important for all of us to have goals, and I believe dreams too. Dreams are what take us to a forward-looking place, that we believe that there is a future that we can accomplish and feel good about our lives. But those kind of expectations that are kind of those benchmarks that get us along the way will help us experience success or failure. And all too often, the expectations put on the families and our kids are not realistic. People who don't walk in our shoes don't understand. Getting through a day is an incredible accomplishment sometimes. Providers can play a really important role in helping our kids be successful and to meet expectations, as long as they're reasonable, as long as there's support to make it happen, and there's a positive outlook that, yeah, you can do it, and I'm going to help you.
Make a goal so I can reach it, and then once I reach it, then you can raise it. This sounds really simple. It sounds like something anyone would say, well, yeah, duh. But for some reason, I've had lots of providers set a goal for me that was either unreachable, and they then talked about how disappointing it was that I wasn't able to reach this goal and how I needed to do better, or they would set a goal that was reachable, and then they saw that I was getting there pretty fast, and then they say, oh, well, we're going to raise it, instead of letting me get there and then raising it to something that's a little more challenging. And when that happens, it just makes you feel like, well, I'm never going to get to my goal because it just keeps going up. It's pointless. I never have that sense of accomplishment of actually getting to my goal and reaching it and knowing that I did that.
I know in some systems, such as in the developmental disability system, there's so much emphasis putting on looking at the environment and how to structure things so the child has the opportunity to learn at the maximum level, to be able to develop skills and optimize those. But it doesn't happen very often in the mental health field. And that's really a shame. One of the very basic accommodations that Bill got in high school was a yellow index card that, though worn and frayed and bent, and got him through 4 years of high school. And we kind of think of that as a magic yellow card, but that card was an accommodation that represented the school and the teacher getting what Bill's needs were. On his first week of high school, he had a major meltdown. Through some circumstances, no fault of his own, people thought they were being helpful, and he just couldn't handle it. So he shut down and ended up with his hands over his ears, just like spread eagle on the floor. And nobody knew what to do for him. They called me, and we came and we talked about it. And they realized that he was just so overwhelmed that he just couldn't function. And so the teacher said, well, what can we do We want you to come back. We want you to be here. We failed you. How can we help you? How amazing. It's not that you messed up and you caused this ruckus, but we failed you because we didn't know how to help you. And that what they agreed upon was a little yellow card that he could carry with him. And when he felt overwhelmed or felt stressed or just felt like he needed a break, he just had to take out the card and put it on his desk. He didn't have to be embarrassed. He didn't have to ask. He didn't have to make excuses. But he could go, and they had pre-appointed places that he could go and just kind of relax. If he needed to talk to somebody, this is the person to go to. If he just needed to be some time on his own, he could go there. It wasn't a $25,000 a year aide that's going to shadow him in high school and be like really, really awkward for a teenager. It was a little discreet yellow card, and they allowed him to use it, which was a way for him to develop his own coping skills and to understand himself and his triggers. What a wonderful gift.
We're very involved in giving back in our community. And I think by giving back to other people, it's made us feel as though we can help other people. We're not the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Being part of the Leadership Task Force of Resiliency has helped me become more resilient, because I am trying to make other people with other mental illnesses become more resilient. With the trainings and everything, I just try to help out any way I can, whether it's packing or unpacking or doing the projections or anything like that. I just try to be as helpful as I can.
Being part of the resiliency group is important to me because I actually feel like I'm making a difference. I feel that I'm changing the way that people think about what youth and young adults are capable of, and I think it's really important, and it feels really good. What's really important, and what a lot of providers that I've worked with have just completely ignored, was they've always focused on what was wrong with me, and they never really focused on what I did well. Services shouldn't be based around your faults. They should be based around what you're good at and what you enjoy.
I liked horses. I was always called, everybody that I worked with around horses always called me a horse whisperer, because I could always tell when a horse was either hurt, sick, or just not feeling right. In my vocational school program, a total of 3 horses I worked with: Kaja, Dakota, and Julie. The way I interact with horses, even Mr. Peters, my instructor, first time he met me for our interview to see if I would be good with the program, he said 99% of the time he found me in the stall with the horse he just had a foal with. And he could never get me out of there.
There's so much you can do to help your kid, but I think finding that one thing that really will help him the most. I know for Peter, his video games have been the key to his resiliency, because he's so about video games. And his mom realizes that and goes out and spends the money for video games. And for me, it's music. And for Billy, it's horseback riding. So I think our parents realize the keys to what makes us resilient and then help us go towards them.
Resiliency is knowing when you're falling and knowing how to catch yourself. With self-wisdom, it's important because there are people who think they know better than you. And in a lot of cases, there are people who know better than you. They can be more knowledgeable, and fair enough, there are people who know more about how to cook a pizza than I do. But when it comes to me, when it comes to how I feel, when it comes to how things work best with me, I'm the one who is the expert. I am the be-all, end-all when it comes to me, because no one else knows me like I know me. And it's important because if you don't listen to what the person has to say, I remember I was at a meeting and I would say that a certain service was not going to work for me because I didn't like the idea of the service. And they said, well, what you're doing is you're making it so, since you're saying that, since you're in that mindset, it's definitely not going to work. When I say something is not going to work, I don't say that because I don't want it to work. Why would I not want something to work? I'm saying it because it won't work. So it's important that providers realize this, that I don't go out of my way to make sure that my services don't work and see that I stay a mess. I say that these things don't work so that we can discard that and find something that will work. Well, courage and confidence, they're really important because sometimes the world, a lot of times, most of the time, if you really think about it, the world is a really scary place. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. But you have to find it within yourself to face your problems and face the wrongs of the world that are going to affect you every day and say, those aren't going to stop me. There's always something that's going to cause that's going to be hard, and you have to have the courage to face that, and you do have the courage to face that. And it's not just the big stuff that can get you down, it's the little stuff too. And with courage and confidence, it gives you the power to face the little stuff.
When I first noticed that I had voices, I didn't know what they were. So I went to the high school's office and I told them what was going on. And they told me to go to the nurse's office, I believe, and they called my grandmother. They told her what was going on. And they took me to the hospital and all this. And ever since then, I've been trying to face the next day.
Michael had a problem at the beginning of the school year. 2 weeks of full-time school caused him to go into the hospital, and we had to make modifications of this. And the principal said, I said, he needs that. He needs to be able to go to a safe place when he's that. Well, he can't go unless he is surrounded by people because he's got schizophrenia and he can kill somebody, and I won't have a potential killer running around in my school. And because of that and his attitudes, I did write to the superintendent, to the principal, and a few other people in the district threatening to sue him personally for not giving me the rights, Michael, the rights that every other student had. And as a result of that, I got
confidence in myself. And because I was able to fight and get that confidence for me, he was able to gain confidence.
I remember this one time I had to get ready to say a speech, to give a speech. And it was so huge because it was in front of the legislator. And everybody was making a big deal out of it. And I was shaking, I was so nervous. And when I went up there to speak, a part of me opened up that I forgot was there. And I started crying. And at the end, you know, people were applauding and people had came up to me and hugged me. And I didn't realize the effect that I had on the people until they really came back up to me. And from that point on, I realized how strong my voice was.
I really think that hope and optimism are just keys. And I think it's true for all people, but especially for young people who may have challenges, may feel like the world is not very accepting, and they look at various times in their life that look almost hopeless, that people don't expect that they're going to achieve. People are not expecting them to make it. People don't believe that they're going to grow into adulthood with, you know, some purpose in life. So for people who see that and can help the young person hold on to that or move beyond whatever the disconnect is, whether a time in their life that they're down or a time that they've failed at something and they don't want to hold on to that forever, but they don't know how to get out of it, for those supportive people and providers around the young person to be able to move them forward, to help them see that there are things ahead in life that will be good. And I'm going to help you get there. I believe in you, and we're going to find a plan, and we're going to help you get there.
There have been some times in my life where I felt hopeless. You have to find something that's a quick fix, and eventually when you see that's fixed, then you'll be like, oh, I fixed that. Let's try to fix this part of my life, and this part of my life, and this part of my life. And in the meantime, the hope is rising while the hopelessness is falling. And it's really important that you realize that it just has to be a little thing, just a little thing to feel hopeful about, and that can make all the difference.
Sometimes it's hard to find good things when everything seems like it's going bad, but you just have to try real hard and try every day to point out something positive. And I don't care how small it is. Let it be genuine, but it doesn't have to be big.
The people that I work with and the families or the clients that I work the Somali community, what I always tell them is, yesterday was a bad day, today is a better day, and tomorrow will be the best day. So sharing with that, when we were back yesterday in refugee camp, we didn't have lights and water. Here we are, we have lights and water, and tomorrow you never know what we will have. So keep fighting. That's what I always share with my clients and my families.
A sense of meaning and joy is important because if you're not going to have fun, if you're not going to enjoy yourself, what's the point? There is none. I mean, you're struggling and struggling, but for what? Nothing. But with sense of meaning and joy, if you're struggling towards something, if you're struggling and it's going to end up helping you and making you enjoy yourself more, then it's worth it and it makes you more resilient.
If you can sit back and laugh, it gives you the courage to go on.
Not all days are super, but what we like to do to get through them is use a sense of humor. And I have kind of a wacky one, I've been told, which has come in really handy with our family. Peter kind of inherited my son the wacky sense of humor, which has been good. We can laugh at the stupidest things.
Just because a person has a mental illness doesn't mean the family should stop living. We go camping with a motorhome or we used to go to a pop-top trailer. And we were able to do the camping and go traveling. I drove Michael and one of his brothers to the Grand Canyon in a beat-up van with a pop-top trailer. And we had a wonderful time.
Providers need to know that it's not all serious. You know, that we're people and we have families and we have things that we enjoy just like they do. We're not aliens. So be happy with us and celebrate with us the few successes that we may have so that they become greater and greater.